Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the next episode of At Home with APS. Hi, it's Miss Torres and Paws here. This is my dog, Peace. If you haven't seen one of our stories before, then you might not know him. He's a really good friend of mine. He's somebody that comes with me a lot of places. I like him because if I ever need to talk to somebody and I don't have someone with me, I just talk to Paws. Do you talk to any animals at your house? Maybe real animals or maybe stuffed ones. Hey, Paws. He'll be here for us the whole day. Today, boys and girls, we have a great story. We're going to be working on a couple different things. First of all, I don't know if any of you guys have ever thought about this, but personally, I love magic. Have you ever thought about, if you had magic powers or maybe like a magic wand? Well, today our story is about a character who loves to be an explorer, and he is a collector of things. In a really weird time, when he's right in the middle of just being on one of his collecting adventures, he finds something magic. I have to tell you, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but if I had a power that I could be magic and create things with my magic, that would be cool. I wonder, what kind of magic would you create? What would you have with you that would be magical? It just makes me wonder. Also, I just wonder, have you ever had, a situation or a problem that you wish that you had magic powers to solve? And then, if you did have those magic powers, would it be good? Are magic powers good? Interesting. Let's get started on our story. As we're getting started, I'd like you to pay attention to the main character. The character in a book is going to be maybe the main or most important person in the book. There could be lots of different characters, but in this particular story, the main character's name is Sylvester. And he's a little donkey, and he lives with a donkey family, and they live in a house. Wait a minute. Do donkeys really dress up in clothes and live in houses? No. This is a kind of a fiction book that is called fantasy. Anytime you have animals as the characters that are dressing up in clothes or driving cars or talking, that's a fantasy book. I like these kinds of books, though, because it makes us think about things just like adults and humans and kids do. We're just the same. And in this book, you're going to see the way Sylvester and his family find out that having magic is not always the very best thing. The story's setting is going to be happening in a home and outdoors and in a little city or town. And also the problem, well, wait until you see the problem that Sylvester has. The name of the book is called Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. It's written by William Steig. William Steig is the author who also wrote another book that I bet, you may not have read the book, but I bet you saw the movie called Shrek. You ever seen that movie, Shrek? William Steig was the author who wrote the book at first, and then they made his book into a movie. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. Let's get started. This particular book was published by Aladdin Publishers, and let's get started. Here's the main character. His name is Sylvester, and you can see that he's sitting on a rock, and he is holding something round and red. Round and red. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. So you can see right away, even before we start reading, that here is Sylvester. He's in his home with his mom and his dad, and they live in a home, and mom is sleeping, and dad is reading a paper. This is a great example of a genre of writing or a type of writing called fantasy. Let's get started. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shape and color. There's a lot of words in here that are really interesting, and we're going to talk a little bit about them later. So hold on, I've got some good stuff for you on that one. So here's Sylvester. He's going through his collection of pebbles. Pebbles are like very small rocks. You can see some small pebbles or rocks that I have. There's larger ones as well, but these are a smaller type of rock. That would be a pebble. On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found quite an extraordinary pebble. It was flaming, shiny red, perfectly round like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, and then, of course, the rain felt cold on his back. You can tell that as he's sitting there, the rain is coming down. Look how interesting the way that the illustrator created that rain falling down on him. To his great surprise, the rain suddenly stopped. It didn't stop gradually over time, as rains usually do. It just ceased. It just stopped. The drops vanished on the way down. The clouds completely disappeared. Everything was dry and the sun was shining as if the rain had never even existed. So it went from pouring rain, dark, cloudy skies, instantly to sunny skies. Look at his face. It looks like he's kind of surprised, shocked. Let's see. In all of his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified so quickly. It struck him that the magic must be at work, and he guessed that somehow the magic must be inside that very remarkable-looking red pebble. Where indeed it was. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." And nothing happened. But when he said the same thing while he was holding on to the pebble in his little hooves, guess what? The sky turned black. There was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came shooting down. So wait a minute. If he's not holding the pebble and he makes a wish, nothing happens. But if he's holding the pebble in his little hooves, that's his hands, then he makes a wish, then it happens. Oh my goodness, this is a magic pebble. How cool would it be to have a magic pebble? What a lucky day this is, thought Sylvester. From now on, I can have anything I want. My father and mother can have anything they want. My relatives, my friends, and anybody at all can have everything anybody wants. Is that a good thing? To have every single thing that you want always? Sounds like it's a good thing. Let's see what's going to happen in the story. He wished the sunshine back in the sky, and it came. He wished that a wart had left his hind hoof, and it left. And all of a sudden, he started running home, so excited and eager to amaze his father and mother with this magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't even believe him at first. So far, our main character, Sylvester, has found one red magic pebble. And he found out by discovery that if he's holding the pebble and he wishes for something, it comes true. But if he puts the pebble down on the ground and he's not touching it, guess what? It does not come true, even no matter if he wishes or not. So in order to get your wish, you have to be holding the red pebble. He's on his way. He's super happy. He's jogging along, going to see his mom and dad. Dun, dun, dun. What is happening? Do you guys see that lion? As he was crossing Strawberry Hill, thinking of some of the many, many things he could wish for, he was startled. Startled means like he was like so shocked and scared. He was startled to see a mean, hungry lion looking right at him from behind some tall grass. He was frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he would have said something like, I wish the lion would disappear. Or maybe he could have said, I wish myself to be safe at home with my mom and dad. But he didn't say that wish. Guess what? Sylvester was scared. Sometimes when we feel scared, we say or do things that we wouldn't normally do, right? There is Sylvester. Can you imagine if all of a sudden you were walking along and a lion came towards you? Would you be scared? Would you be frightened? He could have even wished that the lion would turn him into a butterfly. Or that the lion would turn into a butterfly, or maybe a daisy flower, or maybe a fly. He could have wished a lot of things, but guess what? He panicked. Do you know what panic is? Panic is like when you feel so afraid, like really scared, like terrified, panicked. And he couldn't think carefully because he got so scared. I wish I were a rock, he said, and guess what? He became a rock. Wait a minute. So here's Sylvester, and he's holding the pebble, and he says, I wish I were a rock. And guess what? He turned into a rock. So now, who is this? That's right, it's Sylvester. Sylvester, our main character, is now a rock. Where's the pebble? Do you see that small pebble right there? Is the pebble touching Sylvester, the rock? No. Uh-oh. I wish I were a rock, he said, and he became a rock, and the lion came jumping over by the rock. The lion sniffed the rock. And he walked around the rock like a lot of times, and he went away confused, perplexed, confused, shocked, puzzled, and bewildered. I saw that little donkey as clear as day. Now all I see is a rock. Maybe I am going crazy, he muttered. And the lion walked away. So is Sylvester safe from the lion? Yes. But now what's his problem? He's a rock, and he's not touching the pebble. Remember, earlier in the story, we heard that if he wasn't holding the pebble or touching the pebble, even if he made a wish, the wish did not come true. Now we have a new problem. Now the problem of the story is not that Sylvester sees a lion and could almost be eaten by a lion. Now the problem is that he's a rock and he can't change himself back into something like his regular donkey self. Whew. Man, I gotta keep going. Wow. It's turn tonight. We still see Sylvester, who's now a rock, and we still see the red pebble that is not touching him. And there was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill, with the magic pebble lying right beside him on the ground, and he was unable to pick it up. Oh, how I wish I were myself again, he thought again and again, but nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble in order to make the magic work, But there was nothing he could do about it. Rocks don't move. Rocks can't touch things. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared, and he was also kind of worried. And also he felt like he was helpless, like he couldn't do anything to help himself. He felt hopeless. He imagined all the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself as a donkey again was for someone to come along, find the red pebble on the ground, and put it on top of him so he could wish that he was a donkey again. Someone would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny. But what on earth would make anyone want to wish that a rock were a donkey? Or who on earth would just put a red pebble on top of a rock for no reason? The chance was 1 in a billion. Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? The night came with many stars. Wow. This story is it's feeling pretty sad right now, don't you think? Do you think he's going to fix this somehow? Let's see. His mom and dad. Remember how happy of a family they were? Can you imagine if suddenly you were gone and your parents didn't know where you were? Imagine how much they would be worried for you or feel afraid for you. Wow, let's see what's going to happen. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Mrs. Duncan, his mother, cried and said, "Sylvester has never stayed out past dinner time." Do you see how she has crying tears? When I'm reading and the character is talking and they're crying, I try to change my voice a little. I make the voice of that character. Oh, where could he be? They stayed up all night, sitting by the window and wondering what had happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely come back home by morning, but he didn't. Why? You are right. It's because he's a rock. He cannot come home. Rocks don't walk. Of course, Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and she cried even more. And Mr. Duncan did his best to try to comfort her. Both of them longed to have their dear son with them again. "I will never scold you again, Sylvester, as long as I live," said Mrs. Duncan, "no matter what you do." At dawn the next day, both the mom and the dad, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan, went inquiring around in the city of all of the neighbors. They asked the chicken family. They asked the pig family. All of the people who live in this city are animals. This is a fantasy story. They talked to all of the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. They went to the police. The police could not find their child either. It's hard to find someone that doesn't look like themselves anymore, because now Sylvester doesn't look like a donkey, he looks like a rock. Look at all those dogs. All the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and tree and piece of grass. They looked in every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond. But they had not even found one single sniff of Sylvester. They sniffed that rock on Strawberry Hill, right where Sylvester was. Sylvester was that rock. But the rock did not smell like Sylvester. It smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester at all. After a month of searching the same places over and over again, and after asking the same animals over and over again if they had seen Sylvester, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded that something dreadful must have happened and that they would probably never see their sweet son again. All the time, Sylvester was just 1 mile away, a rock on a hill. They tried their best to be happy and go about their usual ways. Mrs. Duncan did her knitting. Mr. Duncan tried to read his books. But their usual ways always included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Life had no meaning for them anymore. The story still seems pretty sad. Whoa, wait a minute. This looks different. Do you notice that the leaves on the trees look different? What season is this? You're right, it's turned into fall. The leaves are changing colors and falling off the branches. So it started in summer, and now it has moved into fall. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester was on the hill. He woke up less and less often. Mostly he just slept. I guess that's all you can do if you're a rock, right? When he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock for the rest of his life, forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into endless sleep, and the days grew colder as fall came and the leaves changed colors. Then the leaves fell and the grass bent to the ground. So we've gone through summer, and now we're in fall. What's next? Do you know the next season? You're right. Good guess. Winter. And then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that way. It snowed. It snowed some more. It was freezing. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food that they had stored up and put away. One day, a wolf sat on top of the rock that was Sylvester and howled, because it was hungry. Did you hear that howl, guys? Do you see there's still, I think, the sign of the little pebble there on the other side. Let's see if it's on the other picture, too. Yep, it's there. So the pebble never moves. It's close by the rock, but it's not touching it. Okay, so we did summer, and then we did fall, and winter, and what's next? You guys are so smart. Spring. Did you know we just changed into the season of spring? This is the season that we're in right now. Things are starting to bloom, flowers are growing, trees are starting to have little buds and leaves on them. And then the snows melted, the earth warmed up in the spring sun, and things budded. Leaves were on the trees again, flowers showed their young faces. And there was Sylvester, still a rock. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Let's cheer up," he said. "Let us try to live again and be happy, even though Sylvester, our little angel, is no longer with us." They went to Strawberry Hill. I have hope. I have hope that something will happen. How do you think this story is going to end? Think about it for a minute in your head. I'm going to give you a second to think. What will happen? Did you know when you're thinking, that's like your brain making a prediction or guess of what might happen? Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. She is sitting on her son. It's too bad I can't tell her. Miss Duncan, this rock is your son. If you just pick up that red pebble, you could change him back into your son. She can't hear. She's just a character in a book, right? The warmth of his own mother sitting down on him woke Sylvester up from his deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Mother, Father, it's me, Sylvester. I'm right here. I'm the rock you're sitting on." But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was stone dumb. Stone dumb. That word stone dumb is an interesting way to think about what he's trying to say. He was a stone and he couldn't talk, and so he says he's stone dumb. Interesting. I see his father reaching for the red pebble. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food. They had sandwiches and pickles, alfalfa sandwiches, sassafras salad. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw this bright red pebble on the ground. "What a fantastic pebble!" he exclaimed. "Sylvester would have loved this for his collection." He put the pebble right on top of the rock. Okay, guess what? Wait a minute. This is really cool because now the pebble is on top of the rock, and the rock is Sylvester. Now Sylvester is touching the pebble. What does Sylvester need to say? You're right. He needs to wish. He needs to say, "I wish I were me again." But maybe he doesn't even know that the pebble is on him. Mr. and Mrs. Duncan sat down to eat. Sylvester was now as wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. You know, Father, said Mrs. Duncan, "I suddenly have the strangest feeling that our dear son, Sylvester, is still alive and that he is not that far away from us." Boy, are they right. He's right there. They're eating lunch on top of him. I am here," Sylvester wanted to scream and shout, but he couldn't. If only he had realized that the pebble was resting right on top of his back. Oh man, it's too bad we can't give Sylvester the clue. Let's see what's going to happen. Oh, how I wish I were here. Oh, how I wish I were here. His mother said the same. I wish that Sylvester was here with us on this lovely day. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. Don't you wish it too, Father? He looked at her. All of a sudden, Sylvester said, I wish I were here myself again. I wish I were my real self. And in less than a second, he was. The table that had their lunch suddenly turned back into Sylvester. Wow, imagine the surprise and shock of his mom and dad. You can see by their faces that they are shocked and happy, right? You can imagine the scene that followed. The hugs, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. I bet probably Sylvester is saying, oh, Mother, I'm so glad to see you again. Maybe. And the sun is shining bright. Look how bright that sun is shining. This is a happy day for the Duncan family. Is that what you guessed was going to happen when you made your prediction? Did you predict that? When they had eventually calmed down a little bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble right inside of their iron safe. Someday they might want to use it for magic, but for now, what more could they wish for? They all had everything they could ever want. The end. What do you think about that book? Interesting, huh? it really does start making you think a little bit about some of the stuff that you might wish for if you had some kind of a magic something. If you did have something magic, would it be a rock, or would it be a magic wand, or maybe like a magic animal? I don't know. You know, the interesting thing about this story is that we met the character. The main character was, who was the main character again? Right, Sylvester the donkey. And obviously his mom and dad were both characters as well. And all of the other townspeople who were animals, they were characters. But the main character was Sylvester. Also, we know that the setting happened both in a home and outside. We saw those things. And really, it was, for Sylvester, he wished that he could have something that he didn't have. And really, in the end, he found that magic pebble. And that was like the answer to everything. And he was so lucky. But guess what? That luck of that magic pebble actually turned into something bad. It turned into something bad when he accidentally wished himself to be a rock. I wonder why he wished that. Oh yes, I remember now. He was terrified and frightened by what was that animal that he ran into? Yes, the lion. The lion, he ran into the lion. If I ran into a lion, I would be frightened and terrified as well. Yep. You know, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Do you think it was a good thing or a bad thing that he found the pebble? I wonder about that. It would be good to have something magic. I just don't know that it turned out to be what he wanted. Also, I wanted to tell you that in the end, when the parents decided to put the pebble inside of the stone iron safe, do you think that was like a smart thing to do? Should they have kept the pebble, or should they have gotten rid of it? It's hard to know. Yeah. Let's take a look at some of the other stuff that we've got. I wanted to talk to you about some of the words that were in this book. This word had some really big words that maybe you had never seen before, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them. One of the words that it had in there was the word miserable. Miserable. In the story, it said, Sylvester's family felt miserable when he didn't come home. Miserable. That word miserable, another way to say that might be that you're very unhappy. If you're miserable, you're very unhappy or very sad. Miserable, miserable. Another word that was in this story that you may have never heard before is the word eager. Eager. Eager it means like a feeling of being so very excited. Super excited, like you can't wait. In the story, when it said the word eager, it said Sylvester was eager to show the pebble to his family. He was so excited he couldn't wait. Did he show the pebble to his family? He did at the end, right? But in the time when he needed to tell his family about the pebble, he didn't have a chance because he turned himself into a rock. Eager. This is another word that they talked about, frightened. Terrified is another one, but frightened. The word frightened means a feeling of being very afraid, scared. In the book said Sylvester was frightened by the lion. If you ran into a lion, would you be frightened? Scared, frightened. Frightened is a big word, and it means to be very afraid or very scared. Another really interesting word that came up inside of this is the word unusual. Do you remember when Sylvester said that he had found an unusual rock? Unusual. Unusual means not like the others, different or maybe special. Unusual. Another word that they had in this book that you might not have seen before is the word collect. To gather things is what that means. If you collect something, you gather things together. You get things together. In the book said Sylvester enjoyed his collection of pebbles. It said that he was collecting pebbles. So that means he gathered them together. The other word that I wanted to show you that you might not have heard before was the word panicked. Panicked means like you're suddenly afraid. Suddenly you're very nervous. In the book, it says Sylvester panicked when he saw a lion. That means he became very afraid very fast. Panicked. Nice. Those are just some of the words that we saw. There were a lot of very cool words in that book. Another thing I wanted to talk to you really quickly about were the different elements or parts to this story. We definitely knew our character. We talked about the character in our book. There's a main character. There's also other characters. Sometimes they're called secondary characters. But they are the people or animals that are doing all of the things in the book, the characters. The setting. A setting of the book is where the story happens at. In this particular book, the setting was both outside in nature as well as inside of a house in a little town. What was the problem of this story? What was the problem of this story? Right. It was that he accidentally turned himself into a rock, and he couldn't unturn himself from a rock back into his regular Sylvester the donkey self, right? That's a big problem. I would feel really bad if I was suddenly a rock. I would not want to be a rock. Would you like to be a rock? Me neither. Nah. Rocks sound kind of boring to me. The interesting part about this story is that actually in the beginning of the book, Sylvester thought he had a problem. He thought his problem was that he never had anything and he didn't have anything good. But he did actually have a lot of things good. He just forgot. He forgot to be grateful for all the good things that he had. He had a family that loved him and a home and friends, right? What are you grateful for? What are the things that you're so grateful and happy that you have? I can't wait. I hope you guys are talking to other people in your house and reminding them about what you're grateful for. Maybe you want to tell your family or someone in your home that you're grateful for them. What else are you grateful for? We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. The last part of the story, elements that we're going to talk about, or parts of the story, is the solution. So if we have a problem, we have to have a solution. So the problem was that Sylvester found himself to be a rock. And then the solution is how the problem gets fixed. It's how somehow the story turns out to be that it's okay in the end. So there is Sylvester the rock, but suddenly his family decides to go on a picnic, right? They go on a picnic, there they are. Suddenly his dad finds the red pebble, the magic one, and suddenly he puts that red pebble on top of the rock. Now that is very interesting. And suddenly, Sylvester thinks in his mind, I wish I were myself again. And he was. That's the solution to the problem of Sylvester as a rock. I know. Very cool. We've talked about all the different story elements and also some of the stuff that happened in the story. Let's head over to the chart paper and find out some other stuff. This is a kind of a map that's called a character map. Character map. It's not a map that leads you someplace or tells you where a buried treasure is. That's a different kind of a map. This is a kind of a map that's going to tell us some words about our character. Our character's name is Sylvester. Sylvester. This is my drawing of Sylvester. I don't know if he really looks like Sylvester or not, but I tried my best. Sometimes you just do your best, and that has to be good. Let's think about Sylvester. What are some of the things we know about who he is as a character? I think I know for sure that he is a kind person or donkey. He's a kind donkey. Also, something else I know about this character from reading the book is that he likes to collect things. So I'm going to say he's a collector. He's a collector of items. He is also, I want you to know that I really think that some of the parts about Sylvester is that he is always excited about stuff. He is an excited character at first. Now, whenever he meets the lion, then suddenly our character, our main character, he can be very afraid. Afraid. Do you notice that all of the words that I'm writing here are describing my character? Does anybody remember what describing words are called? I wonder if you said adjectives. Adjectives that's the kind of word that you use to describe any kind of thing. But this is an adjectives character map. These are all things that describe Sylvester. Sylvester is excited, he is kind, he is afraid, he is a collector. He is also someone's son, and a son can be a describing word. It could also be a noun, but in this case we're saying Sylvester is Mrs. Duncan's son. We're describing son. What other words would you think of? Ways to describe Sylvester. If I had to think of another one, I would definitely say, I think Sylvester is smart. And he is also a very brave character. Because I think if I had turned into a rock, I don't actually know that I would have been as brave as Sylvester was. Sylvester was incredibly brave. This is called an adjectives character map. And if you want to try to create a character map of any character in a book, you read the book about the character, and then you just create your own map. Maybe you might like to teach a lesson to someone else in your home, talking to them about a character in a book. I also wonder if you might be able to show someone a little bit about a character at your own house. You know the characters at your house. What about you? What kind of character are you? How would you describe yourself? Are you smart? Are you funny? Are you brave? Any word that describes who you are is an adjective. Adjectives describe something. There's our adjective character map. Let's look quickly at a story map. We talked a little bit about the story parts. We had characters. Here's our characters word. We definitely had a setting, and we had a problem, and we had a solution. I wonder if you guys can think with me. Let's go back over it again. The setting that we had was outside, outside, outside. And also it was in a home, in a home. And where else? Oh, in the town, in a town. Okay. Sometimes if you want to try to write what the setting is, you can kind of just show a picture of a little house, and it just helps remind your brain, oh, it's where this story happened at. Characters. I'm just going to put like a little face right here to remind me that the characters are whoever it is that's doing all the stuff in the story. If it's a fantasy story, it might be animals. It could be pictures of actual people doing things. Characters. Who are the characters here? Definitely our main character was Sylvester. Sylvester. We had Sylvester's mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan. And we also had all of the other animals, the town's animals. Whoops. What was the problem? Let's think about that problem again. The problem I'm going to put is a giant question mark. So the problem is like, we got a problem, we have a question, now what are we supposed to do? The problem. The problem, what was it again? Oh, that's right, that Sylvester turned himself into a rock. Himself into a rock. So my problem is, what are we going to do about that Sylvester turned himself into a rock? Oh, man. The solution is kind of like the answer. They're going to fix this situation. So the solution, how did it get fixed? You are right. The mom and the dad went on a picnic at Strawberry Hill. Remember them walking up there, and they just went on that picnic? And then the dad suddenly found the red pebble, and he suddenly put it on top of the rock. And then Sylvester suddenly said, I wish I were myself again, right? Let's try to put that into words for a solution. So mom and dad went to have a picnic on Sylvester the rock. And as soon as the dad put the pebble on top of the rock, then the problem fixed itself because Sylvester said, I want to be me again. Remember? I know. So we've got our story map. We have our setting, the characters, the main character, and also the other characters. We have a problem and a solution. Let's scoot over to our next piece that we were talking about. We were talking about how on accident maybe Sylvester had forgotten all of the things that he was grateful for. He thought he needed a magic thing so that he could have what he wanted. And really, in the end, I think he found out that he didn't need those things. He was really just grateful for all the things that he had, right? What are you grateful for? I'm going to write some things I'm grateful for. I wrote a contraction that says I am. I'm grateful for And then I'm going to put some little dots there. Those are called ellipses. I am grateful for my family. Are you grateful for your family? I'm grateful for my family. I'm also grateful for my friends. I have so many great friends. Sometimes when things are hard, the things you need the most are your family and your friends, right? I hope you definitely are staying close by your family and your friends, right? That's why I'm so grateful for you. I am grateful for all the kids out there and families and students. I'm grateful for you. So I'm going to say, for the kids and families. You know what else I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for my puppy dog. His name is Padrino. He's a little tiny black Chihuahua, and his name is Padrino. Did you know that dog is probably one of my best friends? He is a very cute little puppy dog, and he loves me, and I'm very grateful for him. He's my puppy, my dog. I'm also grateful for all the stuff that I have, like that I have food and that I have a place to live and that I have just all the stuff that keeps me safe right now. Even though things are kind of weird, I'm still safe. I have people that love me, and I have a home, and I have food, and I have my clothes. So I'll put a few of those things. My home. And maybe like food. I like food. And also safety. I'm really grateful that I have some safety. The other thing I wanted to tell you that might surprise you is I am so grateful that I have nature. I don't know about you, but I love to be outside. And so if I didn't have nature, I don't know what I would do. I got to go outside and see the trees and the sun and the sky and the flowers and the plants. I'm so grateful for nature. Nature. Being outside. This is a list of just some of the things I'm grateful for, but guess what? I'm grateful for a ton of other stuff too. Well, we have had a great time today talking about Sylvester and the magic pebble. Hey, did you like that story, Buzz? Me too. You know, one thing I was going to tell you is that if you are outside on a little nature walk, you might find your own pebble or rock. I found this one right outside, and I don't have any paint, but I was thinking like I could use maybe like, you know, a Sharpie marker or any kind of a marker and just color it. I decided to color it purple so that it would, you know, show up pretty well. I wonder if you might be able to find a pebble or a stone and act out this story with somebody at your home, or maybe act it out in front of your family. Would you be the character of Sylvester? I wonder what you would look like when you were a rock. Would you be frozen? There's so many things that you could do with this. Another thing I wanted to tell you is that I wonder what kinds of things you collect. You could always choose to collect things. I have a little collection of shells and some buttons. Maybe you could even go on a walk and collect some stones and pebbles, right? We've had a great day today talking about characters and problems and solutions and settings. It's been great to be with you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time on At Home with APS.